Good morning, Gina. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Jen. I'm doing really well. Our book is born, so I'm really excited.
I know. These days never get old to me in terms of just having an opportunity to kind of celebrate all of the hard work that kind of goes into creating a book. So there's a number of different directions that I kind of would love to take this conversation. But before I go any further, number one, my name is Jen Grace. So, my name is not on the screen. So I'm the founder and CEO of Publish a Purpose, but I'm here with Gina Martin. So your book it's a new release. It's here. And can you just share a little bit about the book? And while you're doing that, I'm going to put it on the screen so people can see how beautiful your cover is.
Isn't it
Oh,
pretty?
so
It's so
good.
gorgeous. This book is a compilation of sacred songs and chants that we have written in our spiritual community over the last 22 years. And this was something that I sort of stumbled upon when we started having circle making ceremony together. Songs would start to come to me, or other women in the circle would contribute a line or a word, and it would spin up into something that we would use in ceremony. And so these songs have been gathering in the back basket of my brain for 2 decades, and I always thought it would be beautiful to put together a book of them, just to, even if it was Xeroxed copies, because everybody always wants to say, well, what's the lyrics to that one? We haven't sung that one in 3 months. I don't remember how that goes, that sort of thing. And then it became a bigger mission of, because we would go to other festivals and things and we would sing our songs and everybody would always say, those are gorgeous. Where can I buy it? And I would say, well, you can't really buy it anywhere. So it became clear that the wider world could be eager for these songs, for this inspirational music too. And then COVID came. And for the first 30 days of lockdown, I went on Facebook Live every day and sang one chant. And a lot of the people in my community would join me and find that kind of solidarity together. So it reinforced for me again how powerful the music can be to join people, to connect people, and how these songs really do work well, that they're good at what we set out for them to do, which is connect us and raise spirits. So all those things started floating together. And then in the spring, I was invited to become part of a panel for the Parliament of World Religions,
Mm.
which happens every 3 years now and is a really big thing. Thousands and thousands of people from around the world participate. This year was only going to be on Zoom, which could only broaden the possibility of how many people could attend. And I got one of these wild hair ideas that you get from time to time. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if we could have a chant book ready to promote at the Parliament?
Yeah.
And my dear friend Marie Nazon had recently launched a book with Jen and Publish Your Purpose Press. And I was so impressed with the work that you all had done with her and for her. So I reached out and I talked to Jen and Bailey and said, this is my timeline, which seemed completely impossible. And these fabulous women said, yeah, we can do that. I went, okay, so we're doing this thing. We're doing this thing. And yes, indeed, the Parliament was in the middle of October and my book was ready and I could promote it at the Parliament of World Religions.
Yeah.
And so that was one of those, wait, how high is this mountain? Yeah, we just climbed this mountain and we did this thing. So I could say that it's been coming together for 22 years and I could say it's been coming together since June, and both of those things would be true.
It's so good too. I had the cover up before, but I'm gonna bring it up again because you and I were talking before we went live. Just the movement and beauty of your cover. It's just so striking. And so can you just like share a little bit about the imagery on the cover? So if someone's looking at
Absolutely.
it and like they're not sure what this is.
Well, this is the picture taken from down at the base of a maypole.
Mhm.
And in our community, that's the Festival of Beltane at the beginning of May. And we have a maypole ceremony every year. One of the women in our circle, Lisa Lavart, is a very gifted photographer, has a book of her own out and a divination deck of her own out, and has a whole series of things called Goddess on Earth. She took this picture. And I've always loved it because it implies something. but you
Mm,
don't really know for sure what you're seeing, but you get the impact, you get the evoking movement and color and energy swirl, and you're not really positive of what it is. And I think it's a great image for this book because you're stepping into something. You're stepping into a body of work, a faith path, belief system, if you will, a way of connecting to different kind of energies. And this book gives you that access, and this cover entices you in, I
mm.
think. So I
Yeah.
love this picture.
I do too, because I feel like it says so much, especially for those who know, what a maypole looks like. Like there's that kind of like insider. You're like, oh, like obviously that's what this is.
Right,
But even
right.
for those who don't know what a maypole is, it just has a gorgeous movement to it.
Hmm.
It's just a very, very beautiful photo.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about kind of the collaboration component of this because a lot of times we work on books and it's one author doing their thing. And you touched upon this a little bit already, but I want to just go a little bit deeper because I think that for yours there was much more of an effort needed because you had to bring in so many other people who were contributing songs to this. So do
Right.
you want to just kind of speak to that a little bit of like what that process felt like?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's 41 chants in the book, and probably 37 of them are mine or almost mostly mine by composition. But I didn't do any of this in a vacuum. I
Mhm.
created all of these songs in community, and I would be creating a song for a specific moon or for a specific woman who was doing a dedication ceremony or a maiden ceremony. There's one song in here called Maiden Song that I co-authored with three girls who were 11 and 12 years old, who were going to go through their first moon ceremonies in the next year, and we wrote a song for them together. So really none of this has happened in a vacuum. And so even if other people aren't listed as collaborators at the top of each and every song, the energy of the community is there
Mhm.
in each and every song. I mean, some songs are written because someone in the circle had someone pass or die, or some other kind of life changing event has happened, and that sparked the inspiration through me for a song to be created. So the actual songs themselves are definitely a work of community in that it's a big stew and everybody's putting something
Yeah.
into the pot. Then the actual doing of this was also a big collaboration because in order to get the songs copyrighted, they have to be on paper form. You have to submit something. And I don't notate music. That's not one of my gifts.
Yeah.
Um, and so that stalled me into getting this done for a couple of years, thinking, how am I going to get that done? One of the women in our circle is a very gifted chorus teacher, has been teaching music for 30 years. And so I, in my very subtle way, told her that she was going to help me do this.
Mm.
I just said, we're going to do this thing. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So she and another circle sister who's brilliant on stringed instruments would come to my house one night a month for over a couple of years. Now, we were all working full time. We're busy women. Everybody's donating their time. So we would do a couple of chants a night, and laugh hysterically and have a wonderful time. And I don't write easy music, evidently. So it was all quite challenging. But Ginny Brooke and Drew Bluhowski came together with me over a period of 2 years to create the paper versions of this.
Mm.
So that was done. We had started recording some of these chants probably 15, 16 years ago, but it would be, again, it's herding cats. I'm getting women together on their spare time, and we're using studio space that's being generously donated or given to us for a very reasonable price, and gathering people together and trying to recreate in the studio what it feels like standing in the grove to sing together.
Mm.
And so we had, I think, 7 or 8 different recording sessions organized by me, herding cats, over a period of about 15 years.
Yeah.
So we had the recordings too. So now we had the paper and we had the recordings.
Mhm.
And then I came to you, Jen, and said, okay, what do we do with this? How do we pull this into something?
Yeah.
And now we have a book. And we also have, through the Triple Spiral of Dunashi, which is our congregational website, we're a 501c3 congregation. Through the website, you can also go to the shop page. You can not only order our very beautiful special edition, 8.5 by 11, spiral bound edition,
So
which will
pretty.
be signed and mailed off to all you all. So you can order that through our website, and you can also download the chants that are recorded. And we decided to have that done individually. So if somebody sees one chant in this book they really love and it's recorded, they can download that one. They don't have to download the big, huge chunk of everything. They can pick and choose to get the recordings, to get a sense of what it sounds like with community singing something, and how it can extrapolate, how it can become a round, how it can become something with a descant, how it can build energy. So
Yeah.
that's the collaborative process. And then I have to raise up the name of my brilliant millennial daughter, Eliza Martin Simpson, because none of the tech stuff would have happened without Eliza, who helped me create the shop page and did all of that stuff. And every time I got stuck on something, I would yell and panic, and she would help me. And she also co-wrote a number of these songs and wrote a song all by herself in here too. So she's a brilliant musician, and she's a devoted daughter. And without her, I would be a weeping puddle on the floor, not able to handle. This old boomer can't handle all this tech stuff. So there's so many people whose energies came together. Our guru guys in the recording studio were brilliant and patient with us, and we did it for love. We did it for fun. So all the money that we make from the book and from the recordings is going right back in to the congregation to pay for the upkeep on the land. And that feels really good to have something that's going to be an ongoing thing. And it's a thing. It's a real thing in the world that we've already had book orders from Ireland and Wales. So
good.
really exciting.
So good. And there's so much beauty to books in general. And obviously, I'm going to be biased and say that, right? Because this is what I do. But there's something so magical when, in regards to like what you're talking about, because this is 22 years in the making. And to know, and I think that one of the greatest things that books are is a legacy. And in this case, it feels even bigger than just your average legacy, right? There's so many people that this will
Yes.
impact, because I would imagine, and uh, like songbooks, chant books, things like that are not necessarily in my wheelhouse of like I don't other than yours, I do not have any, right? But
Right.
I would take a wild stab here and say that that is a type of book that people do not get rid of. Like people
Yes.
might donate something, but I would venture anything that people won't do not pass that along to someone else, and I think that makes it even more powerful for what you've done.
Yes, I think so. And having it as a real thing, when we come together as a spiritual community, it's a solid thing because it's human beings, but it's also extremely ephemeral. And it only is there because people do it. It's not, we haven't built a building, right? We don't have a chapel. We
Mhm.
stand in the woods, right? It's an ephemeral thing, and it only exists because of the energy, goodwill, life force of the
Mhm.
people who are doing it. And so to have a real thing, a real tangible thing that is a demonstration of all that energy that's going into creating community, it's very heartwarming for me. And one of the women in the circle, I showed her the proof copy I got, and she burst into tears. It's our thing. We've done a thing, and it's a real object in the universe. I agree with you. I don't think people pass this one along. I think it's cherished.
Mhm.
And it's also, goddess willing, I'm going to be 67 soon. And since the repository of all this wisdom has been up in here,
Mhm.
in this tiny little brain, it's really good to know that it lives somewhere else, and that other people have access to it. This last weekend, my kids went up to their land upstate and invited other friends to come up, and the other people who came up were people who have been in circle.
Mhm.
Kids, I mean, I call them kids, they're in their 20s, um, who have grown up in circle with us, and they created their own Samhain ritual this weekend, and they sang a number of these chants.
Mhm.
And one of the kids had his guitar, and they worked him out on the guitar, and so I felt like, okay, so that's been passed over. So the
Mhm.
next generation knows these things, and it's part of their life and how they honor their lives and the seasons and their spiritual path. And so Now when somebody forgets the lyrics, they're all in one place.
Yeah.
They're all there. Yeah.
So good. Did you? So I have a question about the kind of passing on to the next generation, but can you just briefly, so for someone who might not know what Samhain is, just give like a 2-second overview?
Yeah, well, Samhain's today, actually, which is why this is the perfect timing for this launch. Samhain is one of the big, what they call the fire feasts in the old Celtic calendar. And those were times throughout the year when big bonfires would be lit on hillsides and people would gather from miles and miles and miles around to connect. Samhain is the end of one year, the beginning of the next. So in the old Celtic pagan tradition, Samhain is New Year. So Happy New Year, by the way.
You as well.
Um, and it's a big one, and we say it's a time when the veil is very thin between the worlds. So ancestors, spirits, the spirits of the land, the spirits of those who have gone before, have an easier time connecting, communicating with us. This is considered a really beautiful sacred possibility in our tradition, that we might get messages from our ancestors, that we can share with them, that we still remember them and honor them, that we can talk to the spirits of the land and thank it for the bounty. This is the last, Samhain is the very last harvest in the Celtic agricultural year. So it was always said that you never touch anything, no berry, no grain in the field after Samhain, because you leave that for the fairies. So it's the end of an agricultural year. It's the end of marking a passage of time. For the Celts, the day begins at sundown. Much like in the Jewish liturgical calendar, that the Sabbath begins at sundown. In the Celtic world, the next day begins at sundown, and so Samhain actually began sundown yesterday and continues through today. So it's a celebratory day. It's a really powerful mystical day where you can connect with all sorts of things, and it's a day to take stock. It's a day where in our ceremonies we think very, very clearly about what of this last year, what of our present way of being do we want to leave behind, do we not want to carry with us into this next phase of time. And we symbolically throw that into the big Samhain bonfire so that fire transforms it. And it's not it's a process of shedding. It's a process of consciously letting go of what we carry and what no longer needs to be carried. And then we can release that into sacred fire and move forward into time and space with more space available to us. So that's what Samhain is. It has become, since Christianization, become Halloween. And so, there's the scary aspect, right? We still have this notion that things can move in the night, that it's a time when scarier stuff or less than concrete mundane stuff can happen, is the way I'd rather phrase it. But it's gotten completely commercialized into candy and costumes. But it still, to me, speaks of the power of this day, because no matter what they do to it, it's still a powerful day, right? No matter how many sexy witch costumes are sold or how many horrible, bloody, gruesome things are portrayed or whatever, that it still pulls people. There's still tremendous pull to be in an altered state on this day, to be available to all sorts of things that you might not normally knock into. And that's Samhain. And so when we were able, through your wisdom and Bailey's, to make it possible for this to officially launch today, it just felt perfect. It's the perfect time.
Yeah. And that's the type of stuff that we're always thinking about, is like, what's that subtle thing that might mean something super, super important that people don't even realize.
Yes.
It can then be, because it just makes it more special, right? It just makes the day even better. Because we could have launched this at any point in the last couple of weeks from now. It could have been any time. But today is a very intentional day. And I think there's something so powerful about that, which is why I wanted you to kind of explain it a little bit more. So that way someone who has zero concept has a little more idea. Yeah.
Well, it's a big day in the cosmos. Now, for us in the Northern Hemisphere, it's Samhain. In the Southern Hemisphere, it's their spring festival. It's Beltane, which is another one of those big fire feasts. But they're big transformative days. The Celts divided the year into the dark months and the light months. And so the dark months begin today. And this is a time about moving inward. This is when all the foodstuffs get stored for the winter. This is about the time when we move inward and examine ourselves and do the deeper, more creative, perhaps, work, the more yin work, if you think of it from Chinese medical perspective, the more yin work, so that then we're replenished for the months, the light months, when
Yeah.
that comes and things need to grow and be more manifested out in the world. So, from a pagan perspective, we did this perfectly. We created and collated and published this book perfectly in the light months, in the more manifesting months of the year. And now she's here and she's ready and she can move into people's homes and into their hearts and into their minds through the dark months when there's time to reflect.
Yeah, she can bring a little bit of light in that darkness.
Right, because of our beautiful cover. And we also have beautiful pictures throughout the book. I wanted to give a shout out to Lisa Levart and to Carolina Kroon and Hamish Douglas Burgess, who are the members of our congregation who are professional photographers, who a lot of their pictures are in here.
Yeah.
Karen Terrapata had a beautiful sketch that we made on pilgrimage in Scotland. And then a lot of the other pictures in here were casual snapshots I took over the years. So again, that's a compilation of efforts. The visual images are a lot of people's efforts coming together about things that matter to them.
Yeah. And I think that your book in particular really just emphasizes the intentionality behind many, many decisions and collaborations by many people. Because, every book, at least every book that we work on, there's definitely an intention and purpose, obviously, behind it. But I think with this one, I feel like there's just an added layer of intentionality behind every decision. And I think that's really, it just makes the entire product at the end of it, which I feel like even calling it a product is like dismissive, right? Like the end production
The
makes it
gift.
more
The
powerful.
gift.
It is
It's
a
a
gift.
gift. Yeah,
So it's
right.
so
It's a
good.
gift.
It looks so good.
It's so beautiful. And yes, I agree with you. Every decision that was made, I mean, many of them were things like, do we go for the conventional 7x10 size, or do we pop out to the bigger one? And I told you and Bailey both how important it was to the musicians in the group that we have the bigger size and the spiral bound, so that this book can lay open on a music stand or be easily held in a choir. And so you guys came up with the perfect solution. We do both. We do, as my husband, who was an improviser, taught us, you do yes and. We do
Yep.
both. And so there are two versions of it. There's the 7x10 that's available through the online vendors like Amazon. And then there's this 8.5x11 spiral bound that's available through the Triple Spiral of Donishi website. But every other decision, we were only going to do color on the cover. And then the brilliant layout guys sent me a version of it with the pictures in color inside. And I went, oh, that's so pretty. And I'll be really, really, really sad if we don't have that.
Yeah.
So, I reached out to my women and they all went, absolutely. So that's what we did. Every decision felt like it was supported by the community. Even the money to spend to put this out there, I sent that to our senior, we call it the Crone Circle, the older women who guide the community, and they were all completely supportive. Yes, let's do this. Let's divert congregational funds to this gift, this project, so that we have this thing in the world. So every step of the way was collaborative between you and Bailey and me and the design people, but also everybody standing around me and behind me in the congregation and the community.
It's so good. And what's so interesting is that I feel like every book has an energy, right? So when you pick up a book and I know I could feel the energy of this one. And there's other books that, you can feel the energy of the author and the process and the communication and the experience and how long it took and the relationship and all of those things. So there's something really just powerful and magical about that too. It's just to actually feel the energy of so many people who have gone into this one in particular.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if there ever was a labor of love, done by committee over 2 decades, and every bit of the congregational effort that went into this was donated time. Nobody except for the sound tech guy in his recording studio, who Gary Solomon, I might shout out, gave us a really, really sweet, thoughtful deal on his studio time. everybody has been so generous and so open-hearted and so yes-anding to this project that it's just a book of love. It's just a whole
Yeah.
bunch of love between covers. Well, the covers included are love.
Mhm.
So it is, yeah. It
Yeah.
it's heartwarming and heart-filling, and I hope that it brings tremendous amount of joy, not only to the people who already know these songs, but to
Mhm.
the wider world who now have access to them through, there's the musical notes, there's the guitar chords, there's all the lyrics.
Mhm.
When the chants are in other languages, we have the translation of what it's saying, and also the phonetical way to pronounce it, so that people aren't struggling with something as bizarre as Old Irish, because there are
Mhm.
some songs in Old Irish in here. Um, so they have, because there's power in the ancient languages. So
Mhm.
it's great to be able to sing in
Yeah.
those languages too.
That's so good. Are there any final things that you want to mention before we conclude? I have your website along the bottom. So, as you mentioned before, there are two different versions of this. So if you want to get the very standard paperback kind of version of the book, it's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Books a Million, and pretty much anywhere you can purchase a book, you can go access it. But if they want that spiral bound, I'm going to use this, more practical version, which I will bring us back here so we can show it. Yes, then they can access that through you directly.
Yes, and that's through not my the email that you, or the website you have down there is my author email, because I've also got some novels in publication.
Mhm.
But the congregational website, I should probably put that up in the chat. Do you think
Yeah,
that's a
what
good
is it?
idea?
Is it?
It's
I'll put it up.
it's hard to spell. Triple spiral of Dunnashi.net.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, if you put it in the chat, that might be might be easier. I will butcher the spelling, even though I've seen it a number of times.
Oh yeah, there we go with the Old Irish. There we go.
I know, right? I feel like Irish is one of those languages that can be tricky for sure.
Well, because, here's my feeling about Irish is that they were a conquered people, and they were not a written language. They were an oral
Mm,
tradition. People
mhm,
spent up to 9, 12 years in the Bardic schools learning everything. Nothing was written
mhm,
down. So when they were Christianized and the monks showed up and they liked to write everything down, and then eventually became anglicized, another conquering peoples, I
mhm.
think that the Irish purposely made it impossible to spell. I think I think they
Yeah.
did this as you know,
Mhm,
a finger up in the air to their conquering peoples. Because if you go to Ireland and you look at the road signs and you say, "Well, I'm trying to get to Dunleary," but none of these signs say Dunleary, because
mhm.
it looks like it goes Dunleary, and so I think they do it on purpose
Yeah.
so that the rest of us have to struggle. We have to earn our way in
Mhm,
to Irish and Scots Gaelic and those,
mhm,
and Welsh. God knows, with Welsh,
mhm.
nobody should actually ever think they could pronounce what's written on the page there. So I think that these are secret societies, actually, and they
Mhm,
want us to earn our way in to understanding them. So triple spiral of Dunashi. Dun Dun is like a fairy fort, a hill fort,
mhm,
and the Shi are the shining folk, the fairies,
mhm.
the old ones. So triple spiral of Dunashi means triple spiral of the fairy fort,
Mm,
or the
so good.
stronghold of the shining folk, if it's
Mm,
another way of putting it.
that's
And
good.
that's the name of the website. And there's a shop page, again designed by my brilliant millennial daughter, Eliza Martin
Mhm.
Simpson. Um, and you go to the shop page and you can order this book. And I'm in the process of getting the signing done, and I've
Mm,
got my envelopes, and I'm getting all geared up to be able
yeah.
to mail these out to people
Well,
officially now, is our official launch on Samhain, which is
yes.
so cool. And I know I don't have much time left, but I want to spend my last few seconds expressing my deepest gratitude to you, Jen, and to Bailey and Publisher Purpose Press, because you did make this dream come true. This has been a dream for 20 years and
Yeah.
always seemed out of reach and impossible. And how do I do this? And without you and Bailey, it wouldn't have happened.
Mm,
So you are also birthing today. You're birthing, helping us birth our dream. But I'm so grateful for the support you've given and the guidance and the wisdom, and you and Bailey and your company, which I approve of wholeheartedly. And it's many, many, many thumbs up about. You have made it possible. So I'm so deeply, deeply grateful to you.
No, and you are so welcome on all fronts, because it's been such a fun project to work on, and it's a new type of book for us, and so that's what kind of makes it even more fun and special. And
Yeah.
even as we've been talking, the amount of names in my head that keep popping up of like, oh, I have to text her and let her know this is out. I got to text this person. Like probably at least a dozen people have popped up as we've been talking, and I'm like, oh, now's the time to like make sure everybody knows that this is available and to go get it.
Oh, great. Oh, that's so
Yeah,
wonderful. Yeah, let's spread
yeah,
the word. Let's spread the joyous
right.
word, right?
So good. Well, thank you for your time today. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate it.
I had a lot of fun too, and I'm really tickled that this is our
Mhm.
birthday,
Yeah.
and really, really proud, really pleased of what we've been able to make together. So
Mhm.
thank you.
You are